What's up, party people? We're back. It's Sunny Ray, the host of the Sunny Ray Show. Thanks for our sponsors, Raz Rocket. Today I'm joined by Dab. He's calling in from New Jersey. How's it going, Dab?
Doing well, Sonny. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I am pumped about today's call. We just had like a brief connection earlier, and it seemed like this is going to be a fun one, folks. So, Dab, I feel like we just need to dive right into it. Do you want to maybe set us up a little bit? Tell us a little bit about maybe your background, but before doing so, talk a little bit about the fact that you're the founder and CEO of Tlelo. Did I say it right?
Pretty close.
Almost. I
Yeah.
was better off earlier.
Yeah.
So tell people a little bit about that in terms of what we're going to get into, but would love for you to maybe start with your backstory before we go too deep.
Absolutely. So very briefly, I have a career over 20 years as a general technologist, mostly in IT management and data engineering. When I studied undergrad, I was comp sci, and it was back then, what we called AI was still like canned responses and not neural networks and things. And I remember learning about the Turing test and saying, oh, we were kind of techno-utopian, saying, oh, once we have AI that can pass the Turing test, it's going to solve all the world's problems. So I just wanted to open with that. And how sometimes things in the rearview mirror don't look quite the same. And
here we are today, right? Are we beyond that? Are we beyond that point, by the way? Did we just pass
I think it's fair to say that we are, when people can't tell the difference between a video that's AI and a video that's real in certain cases. I think
you're real, though. You're real.
As far as I know, yes. So, fast forward 10 years from there, and I got into Bitcoin mining, and it was really just the dawn of the ASIC era. So, I was one of the fools who waited 6 months to get a Butterfly Labs ASIC
you and I both, buddy. Actually, you want to see something? Let's see how far back you really go.
Oh yeah, I got a few of those too in a drawer somewhere. Absolutely.
Okay.
And so that was my era, and I think I had an Avalon ASIC as well, and that was what I used to kind of accumulate my my Bitcoin and Ethereum at the time holdings, and kind of just was holding them for many years as I continued working in the tech industry. And then in 2020, New Jersey, where I was born and raised, we legalized adult use cannabis. And I have to say, in 2020, adult use cannabis looked to me like Bitcoin looked in 2010. Like, it was a wild west. The regulations were messy and conflicting, and no one really, the people were having to just forge their own paths. There was no path to follow. And that's what really, I think, excites me the most. And I think that's why I kind of made this decision a few years back now. I've been working on this cannabis venture for 3 years now, which I'll get into. But I have liquidated all my crypto to invest into this legal adult use cannabis manufacturing and processing venture in New Jersey. And we are fully licensed to do that. And we're currently building out our facility and pretty close to launch. And it's called TLEHL, TLEHL. And that's an acronym. It stands for The Legal Eagle Has Landed. It, again, refers to this sea change that we are now living through that reminds me of the sea change of cryptocurrency really reaching a point of ubiquity. And I think now that, to me, I hate to say it, but now that crypto has reached a point of ubiquity, I feel like it doesn't really have so much further to go as something that is in that Wild West early emerging stage, like legal cannabis. Like, very briefly, I could tell you, in Canada, I think the whole Canadian cannabis market is in like a $3 to $5 billion range. New Jersey alone is over $1 billion as of 2024. and that's projected to grow to 3.5 billion by the end of the decade. So that's the kind of explosive growth that really excites me, and that I'm drawn to.
Oh man, your energy is contagious. I don't. So, like I was saying, is the three topics that I tend to cover on my show are Bitcoin, AI, and robotics. I have thought many a times whether I should be throwing cannabis into the mix. So thank you for forcing the matter, and I'm kind of happy about it. You said earlier that and I'm going to be jumping around all over the place because I don't have a script. Normally I'll have like 20 questions lined up. And when I was reading your stuff this morning, I'm like, we just need to talk. So tell me about how you are integrating these three techs into your business, your cannabis manufacturing and processing business.
Absolutely. Well, we already touched on Bitcoin, and that is a very direct financial transfer of, it is a pretty capital intensive venture. So we'll leave that there, and let's talk about AI and robotics. A stat that I often bandy around is that people think of robotics mostly in the general populace. We're thinking about humanoid robots and the Tesla one and the Figure and the Unitree and on and on and on, right? Those are the ones that get all the headlines and the reels. But I would say what's happening behind the scenes is largely industrial robots that are not anthropomorphic. So in other words, arms and things that aren't even comparable to any human body part, that are doing this work in factories, in fulfillment centers, logistics. The example I point to is Amazon. So I did recently go on a tour of a Amazon fulfillment center here in New Jersey and saw the extent of the robotic automation that they have there. They recently announced that they were celebrating the deployment of their millionth warehouse robot. So that's the scale that Amazon is doing this on. And I saw it in one center. And what I saw was pick and place stations with human pickers and a big chain link fence. And on the other side of the chain link fence, as far as the eye could see, was shelving robots. And the shelves just kind of got out of each other's way and would roll right up to the picker. And then a light shines on the right shelf in the shelving of the shelving robot. It has four sides of shelves. It can spin around. And that is how Amazon is doing package fulfillment right now. They actually do random stow. They don't put anything on everything that comes in just goes on one of those shelves. They don't put any mind to it. And then the right shelf comes over to the picker to fulfill whatever order is on deck.
So in the cannabis industry, you guys are using it to do?
So that to me is that's a great example of low-hanging fruit to me. Inventory management has major challenges in the cannabis industry. We have to have basically a fenced in, something similar to what we would call a DEA drug cage, which you would see in a pharmacy, that for all of the scheduled, high scheduled substances. And inside there, you're either going to have some kind of shelving system with a place for your raw materials, a place for your work in process, and a place for your finished goods of all the different SKUs, and try to have every one of your line workers always get that right. Or you could have robotic shelves that roll up to the door. And in my mind, as soon as possible, I want robotic shelves that roll up to the door. Amazon makes their own. They don't sell them, but there are a number of companies that do provide this on the scale that we're looking to operate. So that's one of the examples of how we will be using robotic automation. Another example is, to me, low-hanging fruit is cleaning. So we want to have a very clean facility. And I've actually been working in warehouses lately part-time to gain more experience in doing delivery driver jobs, to learn more about manifests and itineraries and all the different edge cases of package delivery and fulfillment. And one thing I notice is that when we're cleaning out the warehouse, people are driving around forklifts, they're moving product around. It's it gets in the way. It disrupts. It's just a pain, and it's a little bit dangerous, to be honest. And in industrial robotics, if you have any kind of junior high school mentality, I ask you to set it aside just for a moment. We have something called the 4Ds, and it's the guidelines for when to use industrial robotics, and they are dirty, dangerous, difficult, and dear. And the more of those boxes that it ticks off, the more you should think about automating it. So, I would say that cleaning the facility is dirty and it's dear. We want to keep it very, very clean. And so why not have a robot, like, an industrial strength Roomba, basically, that when the people leave for the day, that robot has a shift. Like, in other words, and that's what we call lights out manufacturing, right? So, and in a vision where we're not replacing the human workers with robots, but they're complementary. We can have humans working alongside collaborative robots in the day, and then at night, the 12 hours when the facility's closed, it's like Toy Story. The robots, like more robots come to life, and they're doing all kinds of things, cleaning it, moving things around, setting them up for the next day. And then when people come in the morning, right now in a factory, I come in the morning, when I go in the factory I'm working at right now, and they find things for me to do, I'm kind of just a flex worker. They're like, oh, we got to clean this place out. The night shift left it a mess every single day, right? So those are some of the places that, in a cannabis manufacturing facility, robotics are going to be, it's not cannabis specific. It's industrial manufacturing specific. And there's lots of strides that have been happening there. And honestly, I think, and then I don't want to get too into, we don't have time right now, but it also paired with a lean manufacturing philosophy and approach, which has been really more so in Asian companies than in American companies and North American companies, in my experience. That's the way that we foresee a really efficient and effective cannabis manufacturing operation.
I know you're in the manufacturing and processing space, so perhaps you don't have an opinion on this, but any thoughts on delivery? Like, do you see
So,
drones delivering these things, getting paid in Bitcoin? And
right now the regulations are very tight around delivery. There's no way that could happen. Like, it needs to be in a secure vehicle with cameras attached, showing the inventory under lock and key, with a human operator at all times. So, there's just, it's basically going to be a windowless van. That there's not a lot of flexibility around that. However, there are lock and key robotic delivery things like Bright Drop, for example. It's a little pricey for me to get started with that. Probably going more like to the low end of electric delivery vehicle, because we also want to be renewable energy powered in all ways and completely.
So by the way, we should do a part 2 for sure. I know but there's a lot of people watching. Normally, I don't get this many people on the live stream, to be frank. So people seem to be really enjoying your message. I was gonna say is, in terms of the industry, right? I remember, like, because I'm in Canada, right? So it's legal here now. And there was a big kind of like hype around it a couple years ago. And then now, again, I'm not in the industry, but it feels like some of that buzz has worn off. Where's the signal in all of this? Can you, like, because when you do walk into a cannabis store, there's like a lineup outside. It seems like people are still buying it. It seems like when you look at the commercial level, you know what I mean? It feels like it must be booming. But how do you reconcile those, I don't know, two kind of narratives that seem to be out there?
Yeah, I think right now, it is still, and take New Jersey as a microcosm. We just legalized it, 5 years ago, and it took 2 years for the industry to even get on its feet at all. So it's still very young. And we look at the pricing of, like, my company is going to focus on making solventless concentrates. That's going to be our flagship product category. And we look at when I look at my competitor pricing and what's happening in all the dispensaries around New Jersey, it's all over the map right now. It's complete noise, because there's really not a steady supply. And so that is what you see in the beginning. Then as the supply becomes steady, then things start to even out a little bit. And then in a lot of cases, depending on the licensing regime, the supply then exceeds the demand, and then you get what we call price compression in the industry, which is where, you know, the price starts going down and down and down of the flower, and then it hurts some of the operators. My feeling around all that, again, is that I do think industrial robotics are a fact of life in 2025 and beyond. And those are the kinds of things that are going to make a difference when some operators are getting a little shaken down and shaken out of the system from those pressures. And overall, looking at what's happening at a macro level, I'd say, you know, there's a real complexity that isn't present in a lot of other things that you would try to compare it to, right? Because even within cannabis, you have something called, in the United States, we have something called intoxicating hemp products, which are made under the Farm Bill, which can be sold throughout the country. And then you have actual cannabis with THC in it, and then that only can be sold under these state licensing regimes. And then those are competing with each other. Then you still have the legacy operators, some people call the black market or illegal, all competing with each other for the cannabis. Then you have cannabis on a meta level competing with cigarette, tobacco, and alcohol. And all of these things and cultural shifts and generational shifts all happening at the same time. So it's quite a lot to untangle.
Wild. Hey, help me land this plane a little bit, Dab. If someone, or let's say you were talking to yourself from 10 years ago, what advice would you give him or her? Like, yeah, like what, and maybe I'd love to kind of finish up on this note of courage. You know, one of my goals is to encourage more people to do their own thing, to start their own business. You know, maybe buy some Bitcoin. And so what do you have any, I mean, you seem like you're a courageous soul taking on some pretty big feats here, but any thoughts on, I don't know, wise words of wisdom?
I think it's all tied together. And I think my advice to myself 10 years ago, or anyone younger or in needing of advice, is don't hold back on what you believe in. Like, don't keep it to yourself. Don't feel like you need to guard it and keep it secret. Get it out there. You know, this is something I've studied when I was younger, but I don't think I really lived it in a way now. An early continental thinker, John Stuart Mill, I believe, was known for saying, you know, truth isn't truth unless you actually question and attack it and put it up to scrutiny. Otherwise, it's just dogma. And like, if what's so important to you is just dogma, then that could be a problem. So you really got to put it out there and see how the world takes it and see how people react and flow with that and develop and in partnership with your community and your communities in the world.
That's beautiful, man. Wow. Thank you. That was awesome, man. Dad, if you're up for it, I'd love to do another one. Maybe we leave a bit more time because, yeah, I feel like there's so many, you know, topics at least of interest to me, and it seems like to interest a lot of people. But I know you're a busy guy. Thank you so much. Maybe hang out for a minute, Dab. I'll bring this live stream to an end. Thank you all for tuning in. Until next time.
Thanks.